What if the most famous shipwreck in history wasn't really an accident? What if the whole thing, the unsinkable ship, the iceberg, the sinking in the North Atlantic, was all laid out in a book, published 14 years before the Titanic even set sail? So let's really get into this because that's the central question here, isn't it? We're talking about a work of fiction from 1898 that seems to mirror the Titanic disaster with some truly chilling accuracy. I mean, how is something like that even possible? Okay, so it all kicks off with this novella published way back at the end of the 19th century. It was originally called Futility, but people know it better as The Wreck of the Titan. Now, before we go any further, you got to know that the author, Morgan Robertson, was a former seaman. He had deep firsthand knowledge of ships, which is, the standard explanation for what you're about to see. But even with that expertise, the story he tells is where things start to get really strange. And the parallels are, well, they're shockingly specific. The fictional ship was the Titan, the real one, the Titanic. Both were famously called unsinkable, and unbelievably, both strike an iceberg in the North Atlantic and sink. I mean, the similarities are just staggering. But the comparison doesn't even stop there. It's the timing that really takes this from a weird curiosity into a genuine historical mystery. Just look at the timeline. The book comes out in 1898. A full 14 years later, in April of 1912, the RMS Titanic goes down. This isn't a case of art imitating life. This is art coming out more than a decade before a nearly identical event happened in the real world. So what are we looking at here? Is this just one of history's most unbelievable coincidences? Or, as some theories suggest, is there something way more deliberate going on? And this is where the story takes a very sharp turn, from an uncanny coincidence to a full-blown conspiracy. The theory we're exploring argues this wasn't a prediction, not at all. It was, in their words, a plan. Yeah, this theory doesn't call the book a lucky guess. It calls it a prophetic blueprint, a piece of predictive programming. So what in the world does that term actually mean? Okay, so predictive programming. It's the theory that certain powerful groups can introduce an idea or even a future event to the public through fiction, like books or movies. The goal is to plant a seed in the collective consciousness. That way, when the real event happens, it feels familiar, maybe less shocking, or even like it was meant to be. According to this theory, the method is a simple two-step process. Step 1 is the prophecy. In 1898, the story is published. Step 2 is the ritual. 14 years later, a real-world event is staged to match the fiction, turning that story into a chilling reality. But why? What could possibly be the point of such an elaborate, terrible act? Well, the theory claims the sinking of the Titanic wasn't an accident at all. It was orchestrated as a massive, public ritual sacrifice. This is where the whole thing gets even deeper, because in this interpretation, nothing about the disaster was random. Every single element was symbolic. It was a message being sent to the world. The theory decodes it like this. The ship, the Titanic, represents the old world and all of its industrial pride. The iceberg is seen as a symbol of divine, natural law, a force that can just effortlessly shatter man-made technology. And the sinking itself is interpreted as a cleansing, a washing away of that old order. And the intended psychological impact? The goal was apparently to create a traumatic shock to the system, an event designed to shake the world's faith in its own technological prowess. It was a lesson in futility, just like the book's original title suggested. Which, of course, leads us to the biggest question of all. If this was a plan, if this was a ritual, then who were the architects? Who was allegedly behind this so-called great game? The theory points to a single, shadowy group it calls the OK Club. They're presented as the masterminds behind this event and, well, others throughout history too. And so, the whole theory comes together. It claims that major accidents in history aren't accidents at all, but carefully planned rituals. These acts are all moves in a long and terrible game. And the novella The Wreck of the Titan is presented as the ultimate proof, the smoking gun, the actual script for the Titanic disaster. And this brings us right back around to the beginning. The novella isn't seen as a coincidence or a prophecy. In this theory, it is the script, deliberately published for the world to read long before the play itself was performed on the stage of the North Atlantic Ocean. Ultimately, this whole theory leaves us with a really provocative and unsettling thought that goes far beyond just one ship. It asks us to consider, what if history isn't just a series of random events, but a carefully written script?